I did stand-up for 4 years before I got viral on YouTube. So I said in school, I'm going to give the speech, which is the scariest thing I could do. So I prepared the speech 50 times, not an exaggeration. I said it 50 times. There are comics who get millions of views and they struggle to sell tickets, and there are comics who get much lesser views who are able to fill up a room.
In comparison to the open mic gigs, which would...
They don't pay.
Open mic gigs don't pay. That is your stage time.
Dude, there are so many times where I was like, you know what, won't this make a very good show? And I didn't go and pitch it to Amazon, even though I had access to them and Netflix.
Yeah.
And I didn't do it. I was like, and I see the shows being made,
Right.
which on similar lines.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, I should have just had confidence in they're learning it.
The problem that every young comedian has today, which is how do I build a career being a stand-up comedian? Let's define what does it mean to be a comedian in India today?
Oh, because those two questions
Yes, I realized you were going to say that.
are very different. So let's start with the easier question. What does
Yeah.
it mean to be a stand-up comedian? Stand-up comedian is somebody who can go on stage and perform to a bunch of strangers and make them laugh for the duration they're on stage at hopefully a continuous pace.
Epic.
Yes.
So I want to see this to the context of if I was to start today,
Yes.
what are the basic skills that I require to become a comedian?
You'll be in either two spectrums and you'll be kind of fluctuating. One is the performer comedian and one is the writer comedian.
Okay.
Both are pros and cons. The performer comedian is very apt on stage, very good at speaking, very good at acting out. Command of stage is very powerful. The writing comedian, the words is what it is. The words are super strong. The joke is very concise. The joke works every time on paper. If it works on paper, then it's obviously going to work on stage most of the time.
Kenny, I think about it as say level 0.
Yes.
Okay. I think I'm funny,
Yeah.
and I want to take this career seriously.
Yes.
How do I make this decision between being a performing comedian or a writing comedian first?
If you are at point zero,
Yeah.
and you think you're like funny, the goal is, can you be funny when you meet somebody for the first time? Because comedy is very social. It's a social kind of aspect of human beings where watching something funny alone, you don't laugh. But if you have a person next to you,
Yeah.
you laugh. So it's kind of established. It's a social thing. Being funny with your friends might not necessarily translate to on stage. If you're naturally leaning towards you're good at writing jokes,
Yeah.
and you're pretty confident about it, that's the direction you focus on first.
Understood.
So then you can do a lot of things like writing workshops, obviously writing more, watching the written version of jokes. If stand-up comedians have given access to that online, like a famous comedians you might, Steve Martin has and George Carlin has books of just their written material.
Right.
And if you're inclining towards the performance side, where you're like, no, I enjoy the performance more, start there. And then you can choose theater workshops.
Understood.
Yeah.
And if I also think about it in the context of your own career,
Yes.
when did you identify which one of the two were you, and where did that begin?
I got a DM from somebody recently, and she had the worst observation about us. She said, when I see you guys like talking about your journey on podcasts, all of you guys just say you went on stage, you killed it, you won everything, and then you became a comedian. So seems pretty awesome that you guys are following your dream. And I said, that's not
Right.
at all what happened. It takes a lot of like baby steps to kind of stumble into the final effect. I instinctively knew that I wanted to be on stage. So I said in school, I'm going to give the speech, which is the scariest thing I could do. So I prepared the speech 50 times, not an exaggeration. I said it 50 times. The book said, to a point, we don't need to read it. Then it becomes second nature.
Right.
So then I overcome public speaking, and then I realized I like filmmaking again because I used to watch YouTube and stuff. I was like, I like doing this stuff. So I learned how to shoot, I learned how to edit, and then a lot of these filmmaking books said if you become a better filmmaker if you know how to act, because if you can act, you can talk to your actors better. Then you know what they are going through. So then I got into theater, and I was also into music as to play the guitar and sing.
Yeah.
Again, it was just, I liked being on stage. I liked performing. So I got into theater to get better at directing. And as I was doing theater, everybody was like, you're very funny on stage. You should do more of comedy. And I was like, yeah, I like it, but my goal is filmmaking. And then I was only doing funny roles on theater. And then I stumbled upon stand-up. So as you can see, the path is very performance based.
Right. Got it.
Yeah, my path was more performance based.
Yeah.
And then my second half of my career journey was to work on the writing
Writing
aspect,
side.
because then I wanted to be foolproof. What happens, the pitfall of a performance based approach is it depends on your mood that day.
Right. Understood.
And the pitfall of a writing approach is that you're not doing justice to your writing.
Right.
That if you perform a good joke badly, you don't get a laugh.
Yeah.
And if you perform a bad joke really well, you'll get a laugh.
What does performing professionally mean?
Yeah.
And how does it, one, compensate? Does it even?
Yeah.
And two, how do I go about finding that gig so that I can perform the first 10 minutes more and more? So
Yeah.
I make that better.
Yeah. So I can't talk about this stage without talking about content creation.
Right.
I personally feel if you want to have a successful career as a stand-up comedian, you have to have an online presence. It's just a part of any product. If you consider yourself as a product, this is your marketing.
Right.
And with marketing, you need to understand distribution. I did stand-up for 4 years before I got viral. Everyone's wearing it on YouTube, and that's when I started making money,
Yeah.
and I could have a career. The immediate reaction of anyone who's a purist listening to this
Yeah.
is like, no, I'm going to make it through the club scene. I'm going to go to venues, I'm going to do shows, I'm going to prove my metal,
Yeah.
and just without YouTube, without content creation, I'm going to sell tickets. Unfortunately, that's not the case, because I'm not saying you can't. I've not seen it happen. What works is how can you as a product be seen by a customer?
Right.
So if you want to get money as a corporate show, you want to do a private event for a IT company, for example, which is a way we make money. How is that IT manager or employee or boss going to see you if
Right.
you're performing at a small cafe in Bangalore and Kurmangala?
Right.
It's impossible. So it has to reach the customer's face,
Yeah.
their life. And the one most effective and free way to do it is social media.
Right.
Before you even start doing stand-up, start creating sketches, maybe memes,
Yeah.
maybe a Twitter, maybe a LinkedIn. Rahul Subramaniam is very famous for having a LinkedIn following,
Yeah.
which is genius when you see it, how he gets a lot of corporate bookings.
Yeah.
Because he's making very corporate-based jokes, which is his customer base.
Okay, got
So
it.
that's the kind of level of work we are expecting if you want to make this a career. Now that I've established you need a content creation angle, now we can now start getting gigs.
So, assuming that I'm kickstarting this career today, I've gone and I've consumed all of these different content pieces. I have done these workshops. I have now built my solid 10 minutes.
Yeah.
But while I'm doing that, I'm also creating content on
Yes.
multiple different platforms.
Yes.
And while I'm creating this content on multiple different platforms, I realize that this distribution is going to help me get gigs. So, if that's the case, I have to then focus on building content, right? Let's play with that for a second. People are seeing me perform.
Yeah.
What would be a good way to be sort of consistent? Like, should I be putting out content every day? Should I be putting it out once in a while?
Yeah.
So I want to understand what the play there. How do I stay consistent on that?
Friends, unfortunately, we all know the answer to this. It's as much content as you can freaking make.
Right.
And the more you put, the more you'll succeed. I mean, I've been doing this for 15 years. I've gone insane, friends. It's never enough.
Right.
You put a special out, next week they're like, you're not putting out anything only. So it's
Right.
never ending. So
Right.
obviously the answer is as much as you can.
Right.
Make stuff that you're excited about. So if in 1 week, at least do one piece of content.
Okay.
Ideally that you're excited about.
Yeah.
Because as you said, content dilution is also a thing.
Yeah.
Don't put up stuff you're not proud of. Don't put up stuff that's not well written.
Yeah.
Because that'll reflect on your career. If you create good sketches or good video memes or good something, then they're like, if I go on stage and if I go watch this person live, it's going to be good.
What does a large audience in this case mean? Like,
Yeah.
will I be able to start getting gigs when I have like 10,000 followers? When I have 50,000 followers? What does it mean?
It's a great question. Actually,
Yeah.
nobody knows. There are comics who get millions of views and they struggle to sell tickets, and there are comics who get much lesser views who are able to fill up a room.
Yeah.
So again, I feel, again guessing, it's the authenticity of what you're putting,
Right.
and how in line with them as a person on stage.
Got it.
So,
So there's no one size fits all.
yeah,
on
yeah.
this. Right.
But the approach is have a social media distribution system.
Understood.
How you do this is up to you. Samay did it with chess, which is very counterintuitive.
Yeah.
Rahul Subbu did it with LinkedIn, which is very counterintuitive.
Yeah.
Back then, when I started putting my stand-up sets on YouTube, it was very counterintuitive.
Yeah.
Because they were like, if you're going to put it up for free, what are you going to do on stage?
Yeah.
And the answer is new stuff. So there is always an answer.
Yeah. Understood. Okay, so we established content creation.
Yes.
This became our catapult into the getting into this professionally.
Yes.
Going into the scene and performing.
Yes.
Now, how do I get the first gig?
Yes.
A serious, when I say a serious one, a gig that pays.
Yes.
Right.
Many gigs happen from corporate employees watching your video, commenting, saying, I love your work. Can you please come and perform for my office?
Right.
And they might not even know how. You
Yeah.
handhold them, be like, hey, I saw your comment. Thank you. I would love to come to your office. Bro, I don't know, bro. I don't know how to get. Hey, get me your HR person. I'll talk to them.
Yeah.
Let's organize something. Bro, we don't have a stage. We'll do it in the cafeteria.
Right.
Like you have to take that lead and create a
Understood.
gig.
From a paid gig point of view,
Yeah.
are the professional gigs in the context of corporate gigs
Yes.
better off?
That's the most sorted one.
That's the most sorted one in comparison to the open mic gigs, which would
They don't pay.
open mic gigs don't pay. That is your stage time, basically.
Yeah.
So the only way to get paid,
It'll be ideal if they did, but it's not there yet.
understood. So the only the way to get paid as a comedian in your earlier days also, or even later days,
Yeah.
is just corporate gigs, or are there other sources of performance based gigs?
As I said, ideally you have a second source of income.
Understood.
Because stand-up does not pay in the beginning.
Right.
But you can create gigs. That's what I did.
So Kenny, I want to find out. I've learned that there is a career like stand-up comedy.
Yeah.
Eventually, I can become one. So now that I'm starting, what content should I consume?
I would break it down to three. One is YouTube has a lot of these 40-minute stand-up courses which are free,
Nice.
which are made by some American comedy room owners.
Got it.
But if you just write stand-up comedy workshop, a lot of these, look for the ones with like 500 views.
Right.
There are these comedy owners in America that have identified the problem that they are facing with open micers, that they only talk about, saying that, hey, I run a room, the new comic comes and he does this and this. It doesn't make me book them. So please don't do this stuff like this. Try
Right.
this. So see those videos, they're free.
Right.
Second is obviously watch your favorite comedian.
Yeah.
Honestly, like that's all the workshop you need. One of my favorite comedians is John Mulaney.
Yeah.
You take this one joke you really like,
Yeah.
of a comedian you like, whose style also you like,
Right.
and notice how they set up the joke, how they're building up to the joke, how if they have misdirected the audience and you, and they've come back to that joke. You can do that yourself. That's another way. Why is their set not as engaging as when you watch your favorite comedian? I think the most painful thing, people say they hate hearing the sound of their own voice when they record.
Right.
You got to do a lot of that when you do stand-up comedy, is watch your own video of you performing. I know comics who are like touring who don't do that.
Right.
Because I hate doing it, but every time I watch myself performing,
Yeah.
I find like 20 mistakes,
Right.
which you can just fix. And that's what I'm saying. It's so obvious. You're like, why am I not looking at the audience? Why
Yeah.
am I-
I remember there was this secret gig that happened in Social in Bombay.
Yeah.
When Aziz Ansari was here. And before he performed on the big arena show that he was
Correct.
doing.
Correct.
And on that day, when I watched him on stage, it was a super intimate audience, but he was recording the whole thing. So I remember asking, he's like, what is that? And like, why is he recording it? And he's like, they're going to use this and they're going to listen to it after the show is done.
Yeah.
To learn more about where the pauses were, what didn't work, what references didn't work, all of that, and then either cut that out or see if it works in the main show.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, that's interesting. I've never seen anybody do that before. Maybe because I'm not.
Yeah.
I've only seen stand-up specials, I guess.
Yeah.
So I learned a lot from that moment. I want to also connect that to your own career.
Yeah.
What is the first ever paycheck for someone like Kenny entering the world of stand-up comedy?
Yeah. I'm trying to remember what it was, but it was, I think I got $2,500 or something.
So if I put it in today's context,
400 years ago. Yes. Yeah.
if I put it in today's context, like somebody who is walking in to this, I want to know where to get that first gig
Yes.
because I have no clue where I'm looking.
Yeah.
I just know that I can perform these 5 minutes of like decent jokes that I have,
Yeah.
I could probably open for somebody, or I could do something.
Good point.
Yeah.
That's what you need. You need not 5, you need a good 10 minutes.
Right.
And not by good, I mean exceptional. And if they like you and you have a killer 10-minute set, they're going to be like every show you're opening or every show you're closing or
Epic.
every show I'm going to bring you on when the show is tanking.
Right. Got it. And I also want to understand this in your process.
Yeah.
Like if we go into Kenny's process and we're like, if we were to build it step by step, from the time that Kenny sat on a chair and started writing the joke to the time that that goes on stage, what does the process look like? Or does it start before that? But I'd love to know your process step by step.
Yeah, I'll tell you everyone's process also.
Yeah.
It's either two. Either they write it word for word, or they write bullet points of the idea. So if the joke is about grandparents, pretty slow when you talk to them, it takes some time for them to respond. I'll write grandparents, slow, respond. Another comic will write the whole joke word to word. And then we go on stage. We'll have an open mic spot of because I have, because I've been in the scene, I get 10 or 15 minutes.
Right.
If you're starting off, you'll get 3 or 5 minutes, which is nothing. Imagine 3 minutes you have to get a laugh. So that's the kind of time you're working with. So every second matters. So the writing approach in this aspect works better. Since I have 10 minutes, we call this the sandwich method, where you open with the old joke that works, you put the new joke in the middle, and you close with an old joke that works. Because what is your number one job as a stand-up comedian is you have to deliver.
Right.
Your feelings come second. So what is the definition? You make people laugh who are strangers.
So Gary, I want to think of this as, let's say you're making 10 rupees as a comedian.
Yes.
Okay.
Which is very close to the real figure.
I'm thinking about it as a pie of 10 rupees.
Yes.
I want to understand from the 4 or 5 things that you mentioned, what are the different sources of that revenue? And how do you differentiate? Like, for example, in 10 rupees, how much of it comes from performing? How much of it comes from writing or doing these different kinds of gigs?
I would say 50-50. 50% is performing venue and 50% is content creation revenue.
Can you help further break down what all comes in performance venue, like this corporate?
It's basically a public show, which is a tour, when you actually make good profits.
Right.
We don't make any money, obviously, from open mics or small trial shows. There's no money.
Right.
It kind of evens out. The production costs evens out the ticket costs.
Right.
So I would just say tours and corporates.
Tours and corporates.
Maybe once in a while, customized, curated event for a client. I've
like
done
a
that
private event.
So like Google's Brandcast, I do the opening for them.
Right.
Amazon, we're doing some gig for them where they're launching a particular product. So they have a launch event where we're curating.
Yeah.
So I would consider that as a corporate event.
Understood. And the other 50% is content creation.
Yes.
When you say content creation, what does that really mean? Like
revenue I'm getting because of my social media following.
Right. Which is primarily, say, brand revenue, which is say plugs, like plugs into the content or integrations and stuff like brand integrations into your content.
Or even ad shoots. Sometimes brands just want you to be an actor. Or be part of a campaign.
Right.
But usually that results in like put 1 or 2 posts from it on your.
Right.
The same brand campaigns are written by them. Hosting, a lot of hosting. Tanmay is also at the AIB because kind of famous for writing Filmfare. That's a big avenue. Again, this is very Bombay centric. I don't know what happens in Bangalore, but in Mumbai and all, a lot of ad and hosting gigs are written by comedians. Because now everybody wants comedy. So you need to have the skill to write for somebody else other than you. Which a lot of comics can't do. And the deadlines in Mumbai are insane.
Yeah, that's true.
So somebody will be like, event kal hai. Script abhi chahiye. And if you're good at that stuff, you'll make good money because nobody's organized. So
what is good money? What does success look like? Am I able to make 1,00,000 rupees? Am I able to make 2,00,000 rupees if I am like 3 years into this? I want to understand what decent money in this category looks like.
From my observation of my peers, anybody who can do a lot of things is the one who does well.
Right.
I like a very, very good example. Super impressive is Kusha Kapila. Like, it's just been like incredible watching her journey. Because somebody who used to do Instagram reels or I've now not seen them flourish into other fields. I thought it was like a roadblock that can't be done. But if you meet Kusha, you'll realize she can adapt to anything very quickly and she can deliver. Like her her existence is those strong 10 minutes. She came to Comic Con. It's the first time she was hosting.
Yeah.
She killed that. I've seen her do ad shoots. She kills that. Ad shoots, I've seen people are like, hey, Kusha, the script is not ready. She will improvise. I've never seen her say, I can't do this. This is not my job. So, upskilled is the word.
Yeah.
She is.
Yeah.
But I have observed if you can shoot, if you can edit, if you can write, if you can host, if you can improvise, if you can cooperate, if you're professional, you will do really, really well.
Solid.
Yeah.
That's very, very powerful. So you have to treat it like you are also a freelancer
Yeah.
and then try and be as resourceful as you can
Yeah.
to the system, not just because of the work that you would get after, just because you're a nice person,
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah.
That helps.
Yeah, and another very humbling thing is a lot of your peers who will become huge,
Yeah.
and then you'll regret being like a complete ass to them.
Yeah.
So, like, yeah, I don't know if that's enough to convince you to be nice to people.
What I want to know, Kenny, is that when you began to tour and when this began to grow
Yeah.
and more spaces were full and were selling out and all of that, you have to also find a way to now create sustenance. Like
Yeah.
you have to create like a long-term play on your finances.
Yes.
If it's operating as all the money is made in a certain time frame,
Yes.
is that true? Firstly,
Of course it is.
and also, if it is true, then how do you create sustenance in a career like this long term?
Okay, so the 5,000 people who I'm going to talk, who this is relevant to, who's going to get it, you're going to feel very financially lonely.
Right.
Because Biswa and I were talking about this, that the entire financial system is meant for salaried people and married people. So at every step of the way, you're going to find the same problem.
Right.
That they don't like the fact that your finances and your and the schedule is not consistent. You don't have salary slips. You don't have any idea of when money is coming in. So loans become hard. Saving investment strategy is completely different.
Yeah.
Your salary is not going to increase by 10% every year. There's no appraisals. There's no pension. There's no. You don't get more valued as you grow older. It's the complete opposite. You get less valuable as you get older. Touchwood stand-up is slightly more forgiving. If you're a good comic, regardless of your age, you do well. But acting, the older you get, the less desirable you are. Host, the older you get, less desirable you are. So you have to have a very concrete 10-year plan.
Right.
And from day one, even when I had no money, my first goal with your money, and if you're starting off, is to invest in things that make you money. So
Right.
I invested in cameras, I invested in a microphone, I invested in a speaker, I invested in things that will help me make a show which will help me make money.
Right.
Really want to know the long-term plan? Like I diversify like a crazy person. Like I've invested in a house, I've invested in plots, I've invested in stocks, I started angel investing, even merch, any way possible way to escape the eventuality, which is you will not be relevant
Yeah.
and you'll not be relatable. At some point, it's impossible.
Right.
And if you accept that, you counterintuitively become a very good artist.
When you were thinking diversifying, you're thinking from a place where, let's say that a couple of gigs have happened,
Yeah.
a couple of good things have happened,
Yes.
which created revenue.
Yeah.
That revenue you're now choosing to put into land, plots,
Yeah.
investment stocks.
Anything that only grows.
Anything that only grows. If I have to take that into the context of somebody who's much younger.
Yes. Cameras. So
So-
good phone, a microphone, a lapel mic,
Yeah.
good lights. So when you shoot your reel,
Yeah.
any good video making workshop, it's all worth it.
Understood.
Because you know that, okay, the money I'm spending is going to come back like this.
Right.
Yeah.
Got it. And the fundamental approach of you working on things or investing in things that will return
Yeah.
without you actually having to work actively
Yeah.
on that. That
Yes.
would be critical in this place.
Now that's at this stage. Like
That's at this stage,
when you've
right.
done it for 10 years.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, I'm very lucky, but
Right.
you know, like you have to prepare for maybe. Well, like I was there when Google Video sent that email.
Yeah.
That Google Video is shutting down. And do you want to back up your videos?
Right.
So I'm like, what if YouTube shuts down tomorrow? I remember when Facebook changed the algorithm, a lot of small businesses shut down
Right.
because they refused to make a website.
Yeah.
They were like, no, we have a Facebook page.
Yeah.
And the moment the algorithm changed, all the businesses shut down.
Right.
Because you're thinking very short term.
Yeah.
So always preparing for the long run to be self-sufficient, to be accessible to all of that is a very important aspect as a freelancer or as a content creator. One way I'm diversifying is also shooting specials of my friends because I already have that knowledge.
Yeah.
So that's like another revenue.
Yeah. The one piece of learning that I also had from this conversation is that I came in thinking I'm going to learn about how the career of a stand-up comedian plays out.
Yeah.
But also with that, it's come to my understanding now that I also need to figure out the peripherals.
Yes.
I need to make sure that everything around me
Yes.
is operating for this to win.
Yes.
And all of that has to play in tandem.
All this is not faff.
Yeah,
this
absolutely.
is directly related to
Yeah.
you surviving in the long run. Because I'll give you a very good example. Like, Kenny, I want to be a stand-up comedian.
Yeah.
I don't want to create content. How is this advice relevant to me? When COVID happened, my revenue wasn't affected because I was also a content creator.
Right.
So I'm saying it's not unrelated. So all of this is ensuring I can be a comedian for as long as I can.
Epic. This is solid advice. I want to know if there was one thing
Yeah.
from your journey,
Yeah.
one mistake that people can learn from that you made.
Dude, there are so many times where I was like, you know what? Won't this make a very good show? And I didn't go and pitch it to Amazon, even though I had access to them and Netflix.
Yeah.
And I didn't do it. I was like, and I see the shows being made,
Right.
which on similar lines.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, I should have just had confidence in my
Right.
ideas. And this is after me having specials and done a show, still second guessing.
Right.
And I really admire people who just, if they have an idea, you just go and do it.
Right. And also, I'd love to know if I'm on stage
Yeah.
and I have definitely fucked up, I'm losing the audience.
Yes.
How do I bring it back?
So it's my favorite thing. This one I talk about all the time. There's a point in a corporate show because they're not come to see comedy,
Right.
right? They're not here interested in you. They don't know who you are. There, you know it's not going well, and it's when I start laughing at the situation. I
Right.
just stop and I'm like, yo, this show sucks. And miraculously,
Right.
when the learning is when you stop caring is when it goes well. In a good way, not like being an asshole way.
Yeah.
When I'm like, stop caring about the outcome.
Right.
It's going bad, it's fine. You have a commitment.
Yeah.
I will honor that commitment.
Right.
And I continue, and then the show invariably does better. Because
Right.
I feel you send out a vibe of like, I'm okay with this.
Understood.
I'm comfortable. You guys have some problems.
Right.
So as a comic, anytime you feel like your bombing is going badly,
Yeah.
have faith in yourself and let go of the outcome
Right.
and do your best. If you're doing your best,
Yeah.
it's not your fault.
When do you know that it is too late to give up on
To
a
get
particular
married.
idea?
Sorry. Yeah.
to give up on a particular idea. You've been holding on to a particular idea,
Yeah.
and you know that this idea is not working. It's not landing
Oh.
anywhere.
Yeah.
It's not landing in rooms. It's not. Nobody likes it. Whatever.
Yeah.
At some point, you want to get practical about it.
Yeah.
At what point do you realize that it's now time to let go?
Oh, dude, 3 times. You tried 3 times.
Right.
Ideally in a different scenario, not in the same kind of audience. 3 times it doesn't work. Just stop wasting everybody's time.
Understood.
Because stage time is so precious.
Yeah.
Because my point is, you are wasting time. There's another comic who's worked twice as hard as you.
Yeah.
Let them use that stage instead of you just faffing about.
Right.
Yeah.
So thank you for
Yes.
being here and being on the episode of How. I think some cool shit will come out of this. And I truly hope that anybody who's on this journey of being a comedian finds value in this playbook. So
Yeah, if you can in the comments write down 3, I'm being serious, 3 things that you didn't realize you had to do as to become a comedian that you learned from this podcast would
Yeah.
be helpful for us. Because I think I always hang out with comics.
Yeah.
So it's second nature to us.
Right.
But if there's some insight that you felt was nice and new, and some insight that you wished we spoke more about,
yeah,
so we'll
absolutely.
make another 3-hour podcast for you.
Come on.
I know we're at the end of the podcast. I have one request.
Yes. Of
I
course.
just want that guy to come on screen. I just want the audience to see the beanbag cameraman.
Hey man, Adam, bring
It's
it
the
in.
first time I'm seeing. Just come into frame, please. You can
Adam
cut
is
this out or put this during credits. I don't know.
Adam is taking 30 extra seconds because he's like, what? This is not part of the
Come
script.
here, come here. See, there's a thing called a monopod or a gimbal, which he could have totally used. But
Monopod is 3K, Sorry, Gimbal is 3K, monopod is 1K. This shit comes for 300 bucks.
Yes.
This is why.
Best
See,
investment
he's
for
right.
a DP right here.
He's right. It's free. This is 300. I would have got for free. Anyway, so
I love how you made it about the money.
no, he's right.
It
he's
makes
right.
sense.
That's
It makes so much sense.
How do you beat that argument? That's correct.
Yeah.